Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not sure everybody saw that video. I want to congratulate Matt once again for the productions and the level quality of that video. So thank you, Matt. I'm not sure everyone heard it. I am here on Office Hours. We are here with the double B himself, Blaine Bartlett.
Hey,
LMM man himself, the incredible mastermind himself, the mentor of mine. Thank you for joining me, Blaine.
absolutely, my pleasure. It's been a dark and desolate 2 weeks where I haven't been able to be here. So I'm glad to be back in the saddle.
Please don't say that, because I know you're on your anniversary trip to Hawaii. We want to refer to it as dark and desolate. So it was an enjoyable journey, I am sure. And we are blessed today to have an extraordinary lineup, as always. And our first is what I call a real author. She's a best-selling author, Maria Sutro, and has a new book release, The Darkest Obsessions. And so it's an amazing series that you're building. But Maria, what reason I say you're a real author is that Blaine and I live in the self-development world. And in that world, we have the same genre of books again and again, extremely interesting, extremely enhancing, empowering, inspirational, but they're really not enjoyable in the sense that they're not entertaining. And your novels are extremely entertaining. And I can't wait for them to come up with a Netflix series based off of your series. How did you get into, which is a unique type of writing today, just mystery novels in themselves? What are those personality traits that led you to be a novelist and create such great mysteries?
Well, thank you for the kind praise, David. I appreciate it. But before I get into the mystery genre, I do just want to pitch back an idea, which is, if not for folks like you writing personal growth books and challenging us all to step out of our comfort zones and to really actually grow, then there wouldn't be folks like me who take those journeys. So thank you for doing what you do.
Perfect marriage. It's beautiful.
In terms of the mystery genre, it goes back, and it kind of has roots in two places. When I was a little girl, my mom had a rule: as of a certain age, you didn't get to sleep in bed with mom and dad anymore. And there was one caveat. And as business folk, I'm sure you can appreciate this. The caveat was that if you went into bed with mom while she was reading, and if you were reading, it was okay, and you could stay. So I was a little girl. I couldn't read yet, but I brought my picture books, right? Because it was a way to extend the time. And over time, I fell in love with books. I fell in love with reading. I really became obsessed with the mystery genre and solving puzzles. And I don't know, here's where the other piece comes in. I don't know if that had to do with the family lineage. My dad was a San Francisco police cop. My grandfather was, and my great-grandfather was. So it might have been a little bit in the DNA. And I gobbled up every type of mystery I could. I started out as a little girl with, I don't know if you know the Encyclopedia Brown series.
Oh, I love, yes, a big fan.
Yeah, good times. Who stole whose lunch pail and all sorts of intrigues in grammar school, and went on to Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and eventually to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. So just always been a passion of mine, and always loved solving puzzles.
It's interesting because I think more obvious is the genetic or energetic inheritance when your parents are police or welcome back, Blaine.
Thanks.
When your parents are police, you have this natural, but I really think it's interesting, Marie, on, Dennis Waitley was one of my mentors, talk about impactful people that allow you. And ironically, Dennis Waitley, there's a line that I love that he taught me: we're planting seeds under trees that we may never sit under. And to that respect, it's amazing because I see these things that happen in our childhood, like our parents allowing us to prolong the time that we spend with them in bed if we were reading, then having a huge impact on our life. And I know there's several things, that I was brought up in. For every gift I received, I had to give one of mine away. During the holidays or birthdays, I had to pick a toy and give it away when I received a toy. And that has carried on in my life in so many different ways. In that respect, which one do you think has a more powerful, impact? That genetic kind of, everyone in my family is a cop, or I'm around mysteries, or more just the love of reading and writing that comes from a practice that your parents, I hate to say it, but I got brought into meditation this way. They kind of played us a little bit, right? They planted a seed on purpose, and a little bit in the parental manipulation for positive results. Which one has had a greater impact? What your parents kind of taught you, or what you watched them do as a profession and as an interest?
I would say just because, we talk about muscle memory and how sense will bring us back in a heartbeat to a specific moment in time, and how powerful that is. I would say it's those experiential influences. Those memories of being cuddled up and just the warmth of my mom next to me, and what that meant. And it ended up being this lifelong thing between us, this sort of special relationship where we swap books back and forth. And to this day, having her still be here to be able to read my work is first and foremost the biggest honor for me. And it means so much to me. So I think the genetics are important, but I also think that investment of time by parents, whether it's something that's almost a quid pro quo, like what you had and what I had, or whether it's just that investment of their time being next to you in the same room, and what they're doing with that time really matters.
It's good to be back, by the way. The idea of history informing kind of how I see the world today as a writer. Certainly, David and I, and I'll just speak for both of us here, we don't pretend to write in the same way that you do at all. And we both write. I remember, I could read by the time I was about 4 years old. And my very first job was, and this really was my very first job. My dad owned a grocery store, and we had a magazine rack, and every Wednesday he would go to the distributor and pick up the bundles of magazines. And my first job was to stack the rack. And I would get my choice of five or six comics that I could read. And that was how I learned to read, was Marvel Comics, DC Comics, all that stuff, going way back when. But what was interesting about this, is where I'm going with it, is it opened up worlds that I never knew existed. The imagination, because I could sit in the back room of the store that Dad had, and I would just disappear. I would just disappear into this other world completely. So when you started writing mystery, what was the catalyst for that? Now, I know your history with your grandfather, your father, great grandfather, all the way back here. But you could have gone a number of different directions, I'm assuming. What was it about mystery that kind of pulled you into that genre that you became such exquisitely proficient at?
Thank you. I think a big part of it as well is part of what drew me to puzzles is bringing a sense of order to chaos. And in the mystery genre, whether it's a theft of material goods or a theft of a life, there's chaos that's erupted. And I think that there is a desire inside of me, and I feel like when I talk to fans of the mystery genre, it resonates pretty uniformly throughout, that we want to bring order to chaos. When something has happened and a transgression has occurred, we want to right the ship. And I think there's a hopefulness in that for humanity, that we're hoping that even if there are ne'er-do-wells out there, that the rest of us or someone somewhere, some hero can step in. And when you're dealing with what I do, which is crime solving in the police context, it is a group of individuals. It's a larger community. It's not just the hero detective, but it's the crime scene forensic folks, and it's the people who work in the courthouse, and it's everybody. So it's a whole community. And I think that's part of the hope that's inherent in that draws me to it.
And one of the other advantages in writing, I think, mystery is that there's so many lessons and stories out there to start off with, and so many variables that we can change and make our own. Comparatively, I find it extremely entertaining. It's the basis of, I think, one of the longest series of television, Law and Order, where they're just sifting through all the cases and statutes and all the police records in order to find, interesting, pertinent, prevalent content. But then they have the freedom of making the story even better and putting twists and turns and surprises into it, especially the ending. Do you use certain existing stories, since you have the relationships in the first responder police environment, to create the stories and modify, or is it all channeled through the universe and it's just the exposure to the genre that has inspired you to write such really entertaining mysteries?
Well, I would say it's an amalgam of the two. I do extensive research. I meet with people. I do firsthand interviews, in addition to online and textual research. But lots of times what I like to do is I like to shore up my stories. They're always fictional, but I like to shore them up. And you'll often hear actual cases brought up where the detectives will cite, in the first case, there's a reference to Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer. And so there's different ones that really shore up this fictional world that I'm creating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an element of truth always enhances the fictional construct so that it becomes indistinguishable.
Well, we appreciate. Oh, go ahead, Blaine.
Yeah, no, I was just kind of one last piece that I wanted to just kind of touch on here. And it had to do with writing what I know best, and also there's a notion, and I'll just check this out with you real quick, Marie. The idea that David and I write for impact. There's a societal impact, that kind of informs a lot of our writings. Yeah, I remember one of the books that most impacted me in my life was a science fiction book by Robert Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land. And I don't know that he was writing for impact, but it certainly had that impact. Is there an impact germ in your desire, for what it is that you bring to the world?
There is, and people ask me sometimes, there's a whole range of how you can approach mystery, and my work tends to get a little dark in terms of the reality of what happens when law enforcement is following up on crimes and trying to solve them. And for me, that element that comes in is the need to tell the toll that it takes on the people who do this work. And really that psychological analysis is really important to me. Like I said, coming back to the community, coming back to the individuals who are involved. That's one of the most important things to me, is to get into the heads of the people who do this work, because it does take a toll. There's so many bells you can't unring, whether it's sights and smells, and they're in their heads forever and in their hearts forever.
Yeah. Well, we certainly enjoyed it and appreciate it, and look forward to the entire series. And if you need any help getting it as a TV series, we'd love to talk to you about developing this as well with our Apple TV opportunity that we have. What an extraordinary, entertaining genre of books, and we appreciate it. We look forward to the next one. Make sure everyone grabs a copy of this one, her newest book release, Dark Obsessions. If you want to be thoroughly entertained, I suggest it's a little riveting. Be careful if you read it before you go to bed, though. You may not sleep well, or you may not sleep at all because you have to finish it. Anyway, thank you so much. Check out Marie Sutro, mariesutro.com. Dark Obsessions is a must read. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Marie.
Take care. Awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, she's amazing. We don't get, it's funny because we don't get many novelists on here. We get a lot of authors, and a variety of, instructional books, self-development books. But it's really nice to have a a real writer, I would call it.
A real
old school entertaining writer that you can make movies from. So, all right, Matt's patiently waiting.
There we go.
The one without the Dodger hat, Matt.
Yeah.
Welcome. He's the CEO of Black Box Collective, blackboxcollective.io. Matt Roberson, sorry. And this is incredible how people are integrating NFTs into a variety of different platforms and in different opportunities. Obviously, anything around collectives is an area that Web3 and NFT membership and fractionalized ownership of membership and a variety of other authenticated ownership is really the capabilities that apply to what you're doing as I see. Let's talk a little bit about applying the capabilities of Web3 to your collective and what Black Box Collective is trying to do with that capability.
Yeah, sure. So what we've done is built a platform. It's basically a ride-sharing platform for private jets. And we have 3,500 access passes to our membership. And what that does is allows us members to log in, pay with crypto. You can connect their passports, travel documents. So you're logging in one time onboarding. And you can also, with a normal jet card that you have today, you can't sell those hours if you pay for them. Now, if you have an NFT membership, you can resell that on the secondary market. You can transfer that to a friend. And the security that you have within the platform when you're interacting with other members, you have a sense of security that the people on board have been KYC. They're legit, because our platform is going to allow people to share these flights. So I'm sure you're aware of empty leg flights and things like that with these jets, and that's a big problem for these charter companies. And so they're losing money on the empty leg flight. But what we're trying to do is allow our members to proactively see those empty leg flights, get alerts on their phones, be able to take those empty leg flights, save money, and then in the process of doing that, you're splitting with other people too, bringing the cost down. So in general, the whole price, it's going to lower the operating costs for the charter company themselves, and then it's going to lower the cost to the customer to book the flight too. So we're hoping to bring the cost down to a more affordable place where these young entrepreneurs and CEOs and innovators actually now their time is money, right? So they can actually now have that as an option to take that charter jet to get to the places they need to go to save that time.
Yeah, you mentioned you buy by using crypto. Given what's going on in that space right now, what has happened to your revenue model? I just have to ask.
So yeah, exactly. It's a bad market now, but what we've done is we've had to just adjust the cost of the NFT that we're selling up front based off of that. So given our members, we're letting them know due to market conditions now, we're having to up the price as far as the entry fee for that. But in a sense of when we're taking money for flights, we have systems in place where it'll automatically convert it to a stable coin. So it protects against volatility. So if we're using an escrow contract, if you got 6 people flying on a jet, money goes into an escrow contract and it automatically converts to a stable coin. So you're not, the volatility doesn't affect you there. So we've kind of protected ourselves against that. But yes, unfortunately, launching a project in this market now is not optimal. So
hey, that's why entrepreneurs get the big bucks.
Hey, let's hope. Yeah. So if we can make it through this market and come out the other side of it, we're doing something.
Yeah. More millionaires and billionaires are made in tough times than in good times. So you have that going for you for sure. It's comparatively, and I don't need to know hard numbers, but I've been a part of this space for a long, long time. And I've seen all the models evolve along the way, from fractionalized ownership to different memberships to social memberships with jet service to empty legs to XO and the kind of group private hybrid that exists for the people that just don't want to deal with security in a commercial airport.
We lose you, David.
We lost David there. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. He and I both are having some connection issues today. So
glad it's not me.
Yeah. I'll just pick up here a thread. It'll be a little bit different than where David was going, I think. But yeah, you were talking about, my dad used to run trucking lines. That's one of the things that serial entrepreneur. He did a bunch of different things.
Yep.
But dead hauling was always the bane of what he was doing. These empty legs coming back.
Yep.
Is what you're doing with Black Box, is it primarily organized around these empty legs coming back, or
that's just a feature? Yeah, that's just a feature.
Okay.
Yeah, we're allowing the charter company, when they come on board to our platform, when they onboard their fleet and their customers, they'll have the option within our platform to adjust the price of the empty leg. So if they really need to sell that empty leg, because LA to New York, then they can adjust it to a point where the customer takes the flight. So it's kind of like a bidding system there. So the empty leg, that is a feature that's going to help out the charter company. But what we're more kind of concerned with is bringing the community together. So it's kind of like bringing the Web3. You have the chance to bring the community into a Web2 booking system, where now the community is bunched together. Where I'm in Atlanta, so the people in Atlanta would know when I book a flight from Atlanta to New York, everybody in Atlanta will get an alert saying, hey, he's leaving at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Let's jump on. If I want them to share, I don't have to share, but if you wanted to share, then I've got 4 seats open. You can jump on with me. And then the guys in New York will know that the flight's coming, and then they can take it and split the daily rate when they get up there. So you're splitting the money. So it's a coordination thing that we're bringing to the traditional booking. Bringing the Web3 coordination is going to, let the system work.
Peter Diamandis talks about democratization, digitization, and distribution. One of the things that you're doing there is democratizing the access. Yes. Anybody can have access to this. This is and then the distribution piece of it, distribution with the information, from a digital perspective. I mean, all of that drives costs down, and it makes services and products so much more accessible.
Yes.
So that convergence, Web 3.0, with the Web 2.0, I mean, it's beautiful. And I love that you're leveraging that in the way that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's all just supply chain. It's moving the fleet around, making sure the passengers know when and where the fleet is landing to be able to take it to the next place. So you're reducing the empty legs. It's all about, it's a win-win on either side. It's the charter company is winning because we're reducing their operating costs. The customers winning because they're being able to share the flights. And then on top of that, you got the green aspect too. You're taking some of these empty flights. You got 5 CEOs going from LA to New York and maybe taking one jet. But if they wanted to make an impact, or if they care, they could all share a jet together and leave those 4 other jets on the ground, be more eco-friendly that way. So that's one way to look at it too.
Well, there's a hidden benefit in that. I'll just pick up on the example you use. All of a sudden, I got 3 or 4 other CEOs sitting with me that I probably wouldn't have had access to.
Exactly.
And now it's the office cooler, the water cooler talk that starts to generate some fascinating ideas and possibilities about, hey, let me connect this dot with that dot, and away we go. I'd be very interested to know how many deals get born on these flights.
That's what
that would be very interesting to track.
We're kind of angling that way too. Once we get the word out, we're kind of in the phase where we're now starting to market. We've got our MVP of our web app and our mobile app. So now it's marketing time, right? So as soon as people start to figure out what we're building, and there's only 3,500 of these passes, when you're flying around with people that are flying charter anyway, just like what you said there, you're going to have the other entrepreneurs, the other innovators, the other CEOs flying around with you. And just think about all the network that you have within this group of people and the business connections. And that's the most exciting thing to me. It's one thing my granddad did when I was a kid. He built a golf course. And he's like, you know why I built this golf course? He's like, because that's where business happens. I like golf, and that's where business happens. That's why I built that golf course. So that's why he did that. So this is kind of similar thing to what we're doing here. So
yeah, it's a very, very smart thing. What I like most about Black Box Collective, it's a great example of what we'll see in the future for Web 3.0, that we're taking traditional businesses and we're applying the capabilities instead of utilizing it as a product, right? So an NFT is actually a capability. It's not a product. And so when you confuse an NFT with a collectible, then the value of a collectible is consistent over time, meaning that whether it's a piece of art or a statue or a baseball card, there's a small percentage of collectibles that are worth anything. Very small percentage comparatively to the supply of those collectibles. There's so much art in the world, but comparatively, there's very few pieces of art. There's tons of statues in the world. There's tons of baseball cards in the world. Very few are worth anything. But when we start to see NFT-based businesses that utilize the capabilities of Web 3.0, then we're really talking about the efficiencies, the effectiveness, the statistical success and value that the capabilities are providing us, the same way that the internet provided us capabilities, wireless created capabilities. Now Web 3.0 is creating the same capabilities to allow us to make more money, help more people, and have more fun. That's what we're talking about with Black Box Collective. Matt Roberson, check them out. Although the NFT space is a little bit squirrely, this is a great way for transferable, saleable, resellable membership to be utilized in the private jet space, and also good for the environment and good for your pocketbook. So thanks for joining us, Matt. I look forward to learning more. Please send me some information. I'm interested in the membership myself.
Will do, gentlemen.
I like what I heard.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let us know, Matt.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
You bet, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, we just need a big runway on Whidbey Island, and I can get there, get rid of all the things I hate about going to Whidbey Island. Just fly right in from San
I got a runway. I got a naval air station just up the tip of the island here.
Nice.
Get my senator to let us fly in.
Yeah, see if we can get that going. We could really generate some great home values if you can fly in and out of that island. Anyway, last but not least, we have office hours. I have Ryan waiting patiently. Ryan's more on the genre of our normal guest, right? He's the CEO of High Performing Coach. He's a high performing coach himself, highperforming.coach. This is right up our alley. We are looking for people that are helping other people pursue their potential. And I'm going to start with an interesting question, credibility. You're an author yourself, a coach, an expert in your space of personal and professional development. But with the enormous amount of people who claim to be performance coaches, and I come from a very high level background in sports, and performance coaches were probably utilized first in sports before executives. And as a high performing coach, how have you found in your marketing to have the credibility separating you from, a 25-year-old that hasn't done anything themselves that claims to be a high performing coach?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I came in at the back end of the last conversation, but he had me at golf. So it's a great.
You are a true Scot. You are a true
Scotsman.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a great question, and the kind of questions I never really bother about myself, because with these things, the proof is always in the pudding. So people have an experience and they know what they're getting through the experience, and I think it's obvious where people are at based on the way that they show up and the language that they speak. And if somebody resonates with where they're at, they're going to meet. And if they don't, they won't. So I'm happy with that. And everybody's going to start somewhere. So if there's a new kid on the block calling himself a high performing coach, I'm his biggest champion. And if he wants my help, I'll show him how to jump higher and help his clients jump higher. Or if he's somebody that's got more experience than me, I'm going to use that for inspiration.
So you not only coach your clients, and I talked about your clients, executives, and whatnot, and who not that you work with, but for the purpose of what we're looking at today here, I'm interested in exploring how you coach coaches, how you're actually, because that's kind of what I'm understanding you really wanting to pay some attention to. How do we develop high performance coaches?
Yeah.
And Yeah, I've been, yeah, and David knows this as well as anybody, but I've been coaching for 40 plus years before we even called it coaching.
Yeah.
And to the point that was made just a bit earlier here, a lot of people call themselves performance coaches, but they don't really have the chops to pull it off in a what's the word? In a replicatable fashion. So with the work you do with the coaches with whom you work, what's the model that you bring to that conversation?
Well, first of all, we're showing them how to do something they've never done before, which is how do you build a high fee online business, and how do you do all of that from the heart? And as they bump up against all of the newness of all of that, it brings up all of their stuff, their limiting belief structure, the challenges of what it takes to learn something new, breaking through old patterns. And then we use those opportunities to help them develop a much stronger mindset. We use those opportunities to help them learn this is what it takes to create breakthrough after breakthrough, even though your mind is telling you there's no evidence, it can't be done, it's not possible. So in the process of laying out a strategy for them to build their business, this is where they bump up against all their edges. And then we show them, okay, this is how you deal with it. So for me to be a successful coach, whether it's high performing or a relationship coach, is about having a strategy that works, but being solid internally. So we're teaching what I call unshakable belief, how to be aware of what's going on inside of you, how to interact with it, how to develop a conscious relationship to the way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you speak, so that you can evolve yourself as a human being. And that's going to be useful in any spectrum of coaching, because at the end of the day, it's about helping people get out of their own way. So we teach coaches how to do that first, then the insight is theirs to give to their clients.
Yeah. No, go ahead, David. Yep,
absolutely. Ryan, it's really interesting. We're talking today about Dennis Waitley and his great line of planting seeds under trees that you'll never sit under, and the influence that Marie, her family is a cop family, and she writes, murder mysteries and police mysteries. And, I'm listening to you, and I know you have some relatives, one in particular, Matt Busby, who was the manager of Manchester United, which is one of the most significant roles you can play in Europe of all, maybe even sometimes more than some prime ministers. It's regal in nature. And you were his nephew, or great nephew, and you've been around and coaching like Blaine, over 20,000 hours of coaching. But yet what stands out to me is you have a spirituality in your vernacular. You have an abundant energy that goes beyond, the background and seeds that have been planted. I would love for you to share, what you've read or what you've been exposed to, because it sounds like to me the foundational principles of your coaching are in abundance and awareness. It goes far beyond pragmatic practices. That you have a very high frequency of awareness and enlightenment, and it sounds as if you've been exposed to some other genres of leaders and coaches in sports, even though you have some seeds from your great uncle Matt. It sounds like you have some other influences. What are some of those more spiritual influences that I'm hearing as you're indicating getting out of your own way, and the consciousness and awareness?
Well, first of all, my great uncle Matt was the only other person in my family to have red hair. So it was just like some strange anomaly, right? So it's cool that you share what you're sharing and whatever you're picking up, because it's not in my bio, what you just said, right? And I know that we're just meeting for the first time, so it's validating to hear you guys say that. And, I worked at a very high level with a company called Landmark, who for me, they're the Apple of personal development. And, I'd went through some major transformational stuff on my own, and they crystallized everything I had learned and been going through on my own for a couple of years. So when I met Landmark, it was like coming home and off like a rocket. And after a few years, I wanted more. I wanted more freedom than any organization could give me. I wanted to express myself, which you can't do when you're under somebody else's inspiration. You've got to go and do your own thing. So, so I would say a lot of my early inspiration came from that experience, but it was just the start. And actually, most of my inspiration now has came from all the. Am I able to swear? Yeah,
yeah, you're doing fine.
I mean, I'm going to do it anyway. It's
Jack Canfield says it's a form of genius to swear.
Yeah, well, you know, my main inspiration was basically all the shit that I had to go through. You know, all those breakdowns, namely with relationships. So most of my transformations came from all this stuff I could not break through in my love life. And but what it taught me was all of the places I was attached. What it taught me was all of the place I was needy, or in my fantasies about who people really are, all my naiveties and all the innocence that had to be broken through, you know. And if you asked me 5 months ago what was my biggest fear, I honestly couldn't tell you, because I felt I broke through all of them. But then I realized
you're kitty.
Yeah, and then I realized, you know what, my biggest fear was actually getting my heart broken.
Yeah.
You know, wanting somebody, loving somebody, and not being able to have that returned. And when I went through that in my life, it basically gave me a rebirth, because when you can face down your biggest fear and come through the other end, you realize nothing can get in your way, because it's all in the mind anyway. So in the process of dealing with my life, this is how I got to develop whatever I've really developed. And what it was about was beyond just thinking and getting into your heart and allowing yourself to feel, rather than thinking you're not supposed to feel because you're a guy, or you shouldn't show weakness, because, you know, I broke through all of that crap, because it's all nonsense. I'm a human being. I know who I am, and I allow myself to feel. And in allowing myself to feel the way I am, what I'm really doing is connecting with myself and accepting my whole self. And then you create a space for all this wisdom to enter, which doesn't get to enter when you're blocking what's really going on inside of you. So the biggest inspiration was actually reconnecting to myself.
Yeah, and that's not something that you're going to learn in a scholastic environment.
No.
Yeah. So,
no.
Which kind of goes, you mentioned Landmark. The predecessor to Landmark was an organization called EST. Yep. The first CEO of EST was my best man.
Cool.
And this goes back a long ways.
Oh, yeah.
But you mentioned your uncle, your great uncle, but there's another Scottish fellow that I'd like to bring in. Just a couple of things here. Have you heard of Thomas Troward?
No.
Okay. You need, and this is me coaching you right now, you need to go pick up Thomas Troward's work. Scottish jurist, late 1900s, some of the most phenomenal coaching material you will ever find. He's got his Edinburgh lectures speaks to, and this is one that I'll pull from right now, entering into the spirit of it, And the idea of spirit is exactly what you teach, what you work with, how you work with your clients. And I love where you're coming from on this, Ryan. I mean, it is the difference that makes a difference. Pro forma, techniques. Anybody can teach that, but you got to be able to move beyond that, and you can't do that unless you've been there yourself.
Exactly. And it really is about that. I teach coaches a method called no method.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, now you got the basics, and you've worked through what you've worked through. Go and just be free to trust your instincts and intuition. Draw on your own experience and get really edgy, do things that maybe you thought you weren't supposed to, and go and discover your own uniqueness. I kind of call it your artistic license, because for me, coaching is an art form.
It is. It's a spiritual discipline and an art form.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And as the deeper that we can go with ourselves, of course, the deeper we can take our clients. The recommendation that you gave is really appreciated. How do you spell his last name?
Troward, Thomas Troward.
Right.
And Blaine Parrish has just put something in the chat, for the folks that are watching and listening here. The Edinburgh lectures and the Door lectures. It's phenomenal stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Dense and deep reading, but it's good. You won't regret it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations, by the way, Ryan, that I took from Blaine, as he has coached me through the years. And I'm still unraveling the onion. So it's something you'll be reading for the rest of your life, as many of the other things with like the Course in Miracles that I read every day. It's just exciting to see how you're giving back to the community. And I want to also tell you that a year from now, I got hired to do a mastermind in Scotland, and we're going to play St. Andrews as well. So if you're still over there at all in a year from now, we would love to have you swing by the mastermind, and maybe we'll play some golf together as well. A true high-performing coach, an abundant human being, one who's here on our mission to empower others, He has a free 2-hour interactive online workshop to help coaches discover what's holding them back to break through, what's interfering with their health, their happiness, their wealth, and their worthiness. That's what I love about the paradigm shift that things like EST and Landmark and TLC even that Blaine and I belong to, the Transformational Leadership Council with Jack Canfield and many, many others, from Reverend Beckwith and Mrs. Lisa Nichols and Jim Quick. It's one of the biggest blessings Blaine has ever and Cynthia has ever done for me, is to brought me into that group. Check out Ryan Mathie, highperforming.coach. You will not regret it. Come join us. We have other shows. We'd love to learn more from you and with you. Does that sound fair?
Sounds great. And I appreciate the connection, and I appreciate the conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to meet you.
It was funny because we had such unique guests to start, and then it moved into a more common area, and then to end with the most common, someone that's probably, of all of our thousands of guests that we've had on these shows, this guy's so aligned with us. But yet we all have something to learn. I love when we get friends together, like, oh, have you ever read, Marcus Aurelius, or have you ever read Course in Miracles, or like even Michael Singer or somebody. It's so interesting. You can't read it all. And I thought for sure that he was a student of Stroud already. He's gonna love that stuff. Anyway, what's your takeaway for the day, my friend?
Hey, that serendipitous weaving. Yeah, I mean, if you just looked at the show notes, it's kind of, and I looked at this and went, these are 3 completely different genres. But when you're open to just being present, the richness that can come through simply through a conversation of curiosity. Tell me more about that. You kind of lean in. Tell me more. You find ways that things are connected. And I mean, this for me, today's session has been a lesson reiterated about just being present and letting it run. Yeah. Not any preordained outcome or spot that I need to land on. But if I'm present, it's going to turn out just fine. And that's, I think, the biggest lesson, biggest takeaway from today.
Mine may be obvious to anyone that stayed here for the entire show, but mine is, Dennis Waitley's famous line, planting seeds under trees that we may never sit under. And you can see the influence of seeds, and you can see the influence with Marie and her whole family that are cops and police officers in that field. And then with Matt, you could see the influence from his grandfather. I'm not sure it was not so subtle about how the seeds of the importance of golf and the higher echelons of business is done, not necessarily in the boardroom, in utilizing the capabilities of NFTs and Web3 in order to facilitate the private jet business development world. And then, it was very obvious to me, the seeds that were planted in Ryan's life, not only by his great uncle, who was, one of the greatest sports figures. When you're the manager of, Manchester United, you're very well known worldwide. But more importantly, even was the influence of Landmark. And, everyone goes through a quantum shift. And for me, ironically, it was the movie The Secret, which you and I are in the sequel of it, The Secret Beyond the Secret, or whatever it was, on Netflix. For me, it's just that first opening of, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And once again, Thomas Troward, like you said, or the Edinburgh area, like all the different things I read, it's just amazing that when you're 54 or 70 years old, it doesn't matter. You still, I think, have to have an awareness that there's seeds being planted at 54 and 70 for trees that, you know, those people who are influencing us may never sit under. And it's fun because some of those seeds are planted by young people on TikTok or Gary Vaynerchuk. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, the Bob Proctors of the world, the Dennis Waitley's, the Zig Ziglars, the Mike Bosworths, the Blaine Bartletts, the Cynthia Kersey's, the Mary Morrissey's, and the Sharon Lecters, all of those great friends, and Jack Canfield and John Asseroffs that have planted seeds in my life. It actually can be a 19-year-old that are planting those seeds as well. So thank you, everyone, for joining us, especially Blaine Bartlett. Great to have you back. Go ahead. What do you got?
Friday, tomorrow, there is a launch that needs to be addressed. Season 2, Office Hours on Apple TV. Hosted by and co-hosted by a whole galaxy of stars. I mean, we got some amazing people. You guys have got to tune in on this thing. It is absolutely phenomenal, the guests that we have on this season.
And the lessons we were able to bring out. The lessons we're able to bring out are even better than the fame power. The star power will draw them in to watch it, but the lessons will keep them there. The stories and the lessons are incredible. It's the greatest show I've ever created. No offense to all the other shows I do, but season 2 Office Hours just sets the standard for the rest of the seasons I'm going to do on all the other shows I'm involved with. But you know what's so interesting? I have to point this out. My life is so grand that I forgot tomorrow is the launch of Office Hours. It is the 21st birthday of you know, my middle daughter.
Yep.
And I'm going to be with my whole family celebrating tomorrow. As you know, it starts tonight. Actually, I'm going to start celebrating. But it's so funny how, you know, the values of my life have changed so much that I could forget one of the most significant professional accomplishments that I've been able to produce in my career. And I'm very satisfied that I forgot about it because I, you know, really know that I'm living my life the right way when my daughter's 21st birthday is overwhelming every other thing that's blessed in my life. And I'm so happy, though, that you reminded everyone, because I would not want people to miss out on that, so that someday they'll tell me, Dave, I don't watch the show because I'm hanging out with my kids. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with me forgetting, because I'm going to hang out with my kids as well and my beautiful wife. So thanks for reminding us about the show, Blaine.
Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Thank you. All right, everyone. Let's just celebrate everything celebratable, even the unstoppable celebration we can celebrate. So make sure we utilize. We had extraordinary event raising money at the launch party, and I appreciate Blaine and everyone joining us for tomorrow. We got free training at 7 a.m. Pacific time on all the different platforms. Over 66,000 people registered, and even moreover than that, I have my daughter's birthday, 21st birthday, Mia. Happy early birthday. And of course, Office Hours launch on Apple TV. It's a must-see TV. I'm not sure I can say that with the competitors or whatever. I stole that line from someone. Anyway, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to yourself and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be a huge day. We love you. Peace.